The Vancouver Canucks are known as a goalie graveyard. They're not known for gravy. They are a goalie graveyard. That's what I meant to say.
Bunch of turkeys.
Hello, welcome to Hat Trick. Jordan Dahler-Coltman here alongside Braydon Dahler-Coltman as always, and we are joined by our good friend Elliott Tanti. Elliott, how are you doing? Happy Valentine's Day. Maybe happy Family Day is also in order because this will be out on Family Day. How you doing? Happy weekend. Long weekend.
Doing great. So nice to be back with you two and to be back on the show. I'm excited to get going.
Braydon, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm rubbing my beard. People can't see it, but we've been talking about our playoff beards, even though we're not even near the playoffs yet.
Playoffs? Okay, cool. Well, let's get right to it. This week we've got a couple fun topics. Obviously, like I said, it's Valentine's Day. We're gonna do a little special edition of Hats Off for you, and we'll get right to it. Topic 1 today. Big news out of the state of Pennsylvania. Brand new regime in charge of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously, they needed to find some new front office staff after Jim Rutherford retired somewhat abruptly. I think that was a surprise to everyone in the Pittsburgh organization. He'd actually only been there a few years, but he's an older gentleman, and I think there were some family things. And you know what? With COVID, it's nothing really surprises me anymore. People have to do what's best for their families, but it did surprise the Penguins. They went on a little bit of a abbreviated hunt for a new GM, and it turned out that they actually needed 2 people instead of 1 to replace him because they needed a president of hockey operations and a general manager. They hired Brian Burke right off of the set of Hockey Night in Canada and Ron Hextall from just down the highway in Philadelphia. Obviously, that's an interesting storyline in and of its own, but big changes there. Let's get right to it. What were your first impressions, Elliott, when you heard that Brian Burke was back in the game?
Somewhat surprised. I don't know that he's ever really made it or indicated that he was interested in getting back into hockey management. I mean, maybe he just sees TV as sort of a rest point for new opportunities. Initial thoughts. Well, what a great situation to be walking into, at least at first appearance, with, a team that has Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on it. But I'm interested in your guys' perspective on this, because it seems as though really quickly off the bat, Brian Burke has essentially said, yes, this is a win now team. We're going to be using this group and we're going to be moving forward. The goal is to win a Stanley Cup right now. And I guess given where Malkin and Crosby are in their careers, that somewhat makes sense. But I wonder if it's maybe not as obvious as it appears to be to everyone else. Maybe there is an opportunity here to move one or both of those assets out and sort of change the dynamic of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Given this change in leadership and change in organization, that strikes me as a really interesting question. And I think we've all sort of blown by it and just accepted that they're in a win now mode, but I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think given, the abrupt departure of Rutherford, this was likely, the best they were going to do it with an abbreviated search. You have someone that's at least done the job and can do it. You're not bringing someone new in or gambling. Like, both these guys have experience in these types of roles. So on the surface, those are sort of my initial thoughts on this, but this whole situation with Pittsburgh has just been very weird for me.
Brady?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the high caliber executives out there, Brian Burke's one of the top guys you think of. Definitely off the off the beaten path when it comes to who's available per se, but I think that the mentality that they win now, that he and Hextall are definitely the perfect guys for the job.
Well, it's interesting, like you say, that it was somewhat off the beaten path, but I would also say, Brian Burke has been at the head of a few teams that have had, let's call it a patchwork quilt of success, right? In some situations, he did quite well. He did get the Vancouver Canucks sort of off and going on a decade where they would finally find success after he left. He rebuilt the Toronto Maple Leafs from sort of a bottom dweller to a middle of table playoff contending team, but not so much a championship level team. And of course, he was sort of more in an advisory role with Calgary, but you can argue Calgary also improved under his leadership there. And of course, how could you forget? He fleeced Kevin Lowe, got Chris Pronger Holmgren won a Stanley Cup with the Anaheim Ducks. I think it's really going to be a big question about how Ron Hextall fits in here, because Ron Hextall, again, built the Philadelphia Flyers into a good hockey team, but not a great hockey team. And together, they're also a very interesting and, let's say, very grumpy combination. So I think that'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Brash.
I think for me, the big question mark is Ron Hextall, and I don't know how this is going to play. Like Elliott said, I think their plan right now is to sit pat and let it play out for the shortened season. I think every team at this point is kind of a little wary of doing anything rash, because 52 games is just such a short period of time. If you can get into the playoffs, it could be a bit of a crapshoot. We don't even know what the playoffs are going to look like, whether they have to bubble or anything like that. So yeah, I think in the short term, they're just going to feel it out, do their talent assessment and evaluation, and we're really not going to see their fingerprints on this team until the draft, or maybe even after the expansion draft and into next season.
Are we all convinced, and is it for sure that this is a long-term thing? Like, that's the other thing for me. Is this a get you through a short period of time and then reevaluate from there, or is this a long-term thing?
What I would say, Elliot, is it seems to me like this is their plan for the next, I would say, 4 or 5 years at least. They have to have thought longer term about this, because Brian Burke, for example, spoke on Saturday in his last appearance on Hockey Night in Canada about the fact that he was offered a job 2 years ago and turned it down because he was enjoying being an analyst. It's an easier job. It's a much less stressful job. He can be with his family. He's an older guy. I think he really looked at this as an opportunity to get back in the game in a competitive way. And I would argue probably Ron Hextall's in the same place. These are not young guys looking for, their first jobs in the NHL. These are guys who are going to be taking this really seriously legacy wise. And so I do think that they're looking at this as, we want to build towards a Stanley Cup in the next 5 years.
Yeah, my inclination would be the same there. Pittsburgh's been a playoff team perennially for the last however many years that Sidney Crosby and Malkin have been there. And as long as Crosby and Malkin are at the head of that ship, I think that these two guys will be there as well.
Well, you have to assume that was part of the hiring conversation, like someone said, like, okay, so what's your vision? Mario walked in that room and said, what's your vision? And so they presumably said, we're a win now team. And then here's my idea about how we transition out. You'd think that conversation would have been had, but if it hasn't, then maybe that's why I get the sense, maybe this is a transitional group.
Topic 2 this week is brought to us by Busy Bee Vegan. Are you feeling hungry? Busy Bee Vegan is a plant-based meal prep service offering pre-made, delicious, and healthy plant-based meals to the Greater Toronto area. Whether you're curious about plant-based vegan eating, looking to improve your overall health and wellness, or simply too busy to cook, Busy Bee is for you. Their plans are focused on eating clean without sacrificing taste and contributing to a healthy planet. They have made it super simple. Choose and order your meals from the multiple plans they offer, and they will deliver your meals in environmentally friendly compostable containers right to your door. You can find them on Instagram at Busy Bee Vegan Meals or on Facebook at Busy Bee Vegan. Go check out a small local business in Toronto and save the hassle of COVID grocery shopping and cooking. Let the Busy Bees feed you buzz-worthy meals. Okay, topic 2 today is an interesting story that's going to take us just a little bit away from the game on the ice right now. It's another sort of one of those swirling controversies that seems to be following us around this year. Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks of the NBA announced that their intention was to stop playing the national anthem before their home games this season. It was a decision made both due to the lack of a crowd in the stadium, and also the larger reason I think is because of the ongoing controversies and conversations about protesting the anthems that was obviously kicked off by Colin Kaepernick. That's a topic we discussed on the earlier version of this show about 3-4 years ago now, almost 5 years ago, I think that he first took the knee. So obviously, following the events of the summer, the protests surrounding George Floyd's murder, and also when the NHL restarted, when the NBA restarted, there were a lot of protests by players, again taking knees, trying to use the anthem as an opportunity to make a political statement. The NHL's Dallas Stars, hearing this news from Mark Cuban, issued their own statement stating that they would under no circumstances be removing the anthem from the beginning of their games, as they viewed it as an opportunity to honor the state of Texas and the country. They would continue to play the anthem. I guess the big question to start with is, do we feel like it is time to reconsider the national anthem before NHL games? And and or sports in general. We'll go to Braydon first. How do you feel about this story?
Well, it's fascinating when I think specifically around the current events. I was doing a little bit of research on when did the national anthem actually start happening around sporting events. It took me back to the American Civil War and inciting patriotism with the people and and I think that that's a big thing that sports does. It brings people together. But like you're talking about here, we're now in a situation where this is actually dividing people more than it is bringing people together. And so I'm of the mindset that if this is doing more to hurt the people who are coming to see the game itself, then I don't think that there is necessarily a place for it. I would further that by saying if we can continue to see the anthem performed in ways like we did in 2018 at the NBA All-Star Game by Fergie and the other horrendous renditions of the national anthem, then there's absolutely no place for it.
Elliott?
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting piece. It's of all the things I choose to care about, anthems before games is one that I've just decided not to spend a lot of time on. I understand why people are passionate about it and feel strongly about it. Personally, I don't care either way. I did feel as though I'm a bit confused by Cuban's comments, particularly around the idea that there's controversy associated with the national anthem, and then therefore that's why we didn't do it. Because isn't not playing the anthem, doesn't that take away the ability for players to show disinterest during an event as well too, or use it as a public statement piece? So, that doesn't impact how I feel, but I think it's important to note that wasn't really thought through in that statement. And I want to note that. The other thing, but I think what's more important is who do these national anthems serve? There was a time when the majority of people playing hockey were, Canadian and American, and it sort of made sense that those are the two anthems that were being played, aside from the part that that's where the league existed. But you look at rosters now and the diversity of individuals that play for teams, work for teams, or in front offices, that's a lot of that has changed. And I don't think that it's truly, it doesn't represent the entire groups of these teams and these organizations and these leagues. And so, in my mind, I don't care a lot about it, but none of this really makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me to be playing anthems. It doesn't make sense for me for them to be taking away. It's this weird thing. The last thing I'll say, and before I hand it off to Jordan, is I'm not surprised at Dallas Stars' response. I'm not surprised that hockey commentators' responses. There is no league more conservative on these issues than the NHL. I mean, the NHL is so stuck in the mud, and it continues to be run by a group of individuals who have these sort of old ways that are locked in that, don't allow you to wear the number 98 for no reason whatsoever. And that sort of thinking, I think, I'm not surprised at the NHL's response to this. Let me just add that the league is so risk adverse.
Totally. I guess I would lead with, I'll be the first to admit that I have in the past been very moved and
patriotic,
proud of hearing the national anthem played at hockey games, especially when you're in the building. I've always found it to be a very sort of collective experience that can be very powerful, especially in those playoff games. We all remember, Paul Lorio lifting that mic for the first time and having, 20,000 people sing it right back at him. And there's something very powerful about that. We've all had those experiences before games where, let's say the speaker system goes out or the microphone doesn't work, and, the American fans start singing the Canadian anthem or vice versa, just to sort of, it's a collective experience. I think that part of it needs to be put on the side, that there's a different conversation about whether or not you find it to be an emotional piece of theater, which is what it really is. It is a patriotic, presentation designed for a very specific reason. I think that it has more and more become a dinosaur and an old fashioned type of thing. Now there is no reason to suggest that there isn't a space for that. We all still enjoy standing up and, singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at the 7th inning of Major League Baseball games, or
there's
Sweet
many
Caroline,
songs in baseball,
whatever it is. There's tradition, right? However, the piece of it that I think is most important right now is to recognize that just in the fact that it is of itself a political act, because it is a patriotic song. There is politics attached to it. It has obviously become a space for political activism, political protest. And I think what has devolved in the big conversation since the time we very first talked about Colin Kaepernick and it is that it has been weaponized, like many other situations of protest or political activism. It has become weaponized by one side and become so much more of an issue than I think it really is. I don't think the majority of people who go to these games would really, in the big scheme of things, feel like they were shortchanged if the anthem wasn't played. I don't think anyone tuning in at 7:00 for a hockey game that's not going to start for 20 minutes because they're going to do the anthems is really going to be upset about it. Do I think in the short term there are a lot of people who have emotional attachments to it for a lot of different reasons? Yeah, of course they do. They're going to be upset about it. The truth is, the people who are protesting the anthems also have serious and very sincere emotions attached to their protest. And I think that is where the space needs to exist. I would argue, I think that's what Mark Cuban is trying to recognize, is that if there are majority of his players feel like the anthem is what they are protesting, then maybe the anthem shouldn't be there. I don't think that's the case. I think the anthem isn't the issue. It's what we've allowed the anthem to become that is the issue. I would also just say really quickly, I know we've gone over time, but I think it's really interesting. Like Elliott said, it doesn't surprise him that the Dallas Stars jumped in with a statement. It doesn't surprise me either, but it kind of confuses me a little bit because it feels like an unnecessary thing to do.
Yeah. Nobody asked.
It feels like they're inserting them into like a wedge issue that they would have been able to skate by scot-free. No, there was no question that they were or weren't going to do this. They don't have to take their cues off of the Dallas, Mavericks. There's no reason to, other than they were making a political statement of their own, which is, this is where we line up on this issue, just in case anybody was worried. It just felt very clumsy.
I think I see it as a bit of competitive marketplace jousting. If there's anyone that was going to be super upset at the Dallas Mavericks, hey, here's another winter sport you might want to come check out. And you know what? We respect anthems in our league. That kind of thing. That's what it felt like.
No, I think that's true.
Note, the job of anthem singer has gone by the wayside. You know how, like, when you mentioned Paul Lorio, it just brought me back so many memories of being an Edmonton Oilers fan. But this rotating circle, I mean, I guess the Oilers have kind of sorted out now. They got this one guy coming in, but part of this is, I think, there was an attachment to those people as well too, and gone by the wayside. I wonder if that's had an impact too.
Yeah, and they used to be like sponsored, like certain political parties would be paying for certain acts to perform the national anthem and stuff like that too.
Well,
right?
there's also,
it's funny with Dallas Mavericks that it went 16 games before anybody even noticed.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And until Mark Cuban made a point of saying it, like, hey, guys, haven't you paid any attention? But that's the point. I think
no. I mean, nobody's been there.
Let's throw the timer out on this one. This is a fun topic to dig into. But the truth is, it's the same kind of issue we're having in Edmonton with the football team and the naming situation, where if you just do something, if you just change something sometimes, you're going to be surprised how many people do not care. But when you make a point of changing something or make a really big deal out of, here's the list of names, or these are the options, and we want fan opinions on shouldn't we do the anthem? Guess what? The people who have strong opinions are going to be the loudest voices on both sides, right? But the majority of people actually live in the middle. The people who, at the end of the day, they might miss it. They might have a little bit of an issue, but they're not really going to care. At the end of the day, if there's hockey being played or basketball being played in front of them, they don't care if they heard the anthem before. No one goes home at the end of the night and was like, wow, man, the anthem was great. Nobody cares at the end of the day. Also, is there any other private business anywhere in the world that is treated somehow like it's a operation of the state, where the anthem has to be played before their event? Like, we don't do this anywhere
National
else.
Guard,
right? This is a private company, the NHL, or a private company, the NBA. All of these teams are private. They can do whatever the hell they want. But the league mandating, there's just something weird about the whole thing when you actually break it down, brass tacks.
Yeah, it is. It is completely weird. It is obscure.
They should start singing another song.
They don't even play the national anthems. They don't even play the national anthems at the Olympics every game. They play it at the end when one team wins, when a national team wins. It's just like, it's so strange. You know what I mean? When you actually think about what it is. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to get lots of feedback, positive and negative on that. That's topic 2. We'll leave it there. Hey, do you or someone you know own a small business? Are you looking to grow or to reach new customers? Hey, why not let us help? Hattrick is looking for unique brands, businesses, and products to advertise on our show. You can find out how we can help spread the word about your business by contacting us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Okay, topic 3. This week we're going to do a special edition of Valentine's Day / Family Day hats off. So who's your Valentine, Elliott? Who are you tipping your hat to this week?
My Valentine, who I'm tipping my hat to, it's just the remarkable confidence of one Tuukka Rask to not pay attention or know the score of the game in which I don't know if you guys saw this video this week. It had Tuukka Rask leave the net for the extra attacker in a game in which his team had already tied it up. And that for me was I mean, I guess you could blame that on they didn't get a preseason, guys. And you the preseason where you really work out your capacity to know where the score clock is and be invested and involved in the hockey game. And so, it's probably a simple mistake, one that we can blame on not having a preseason. But yeah, my hat's off. My hat goes off this week to Tuukka Rask, Boston Bruins goaltender, and
that's fantastic. I hope he does it again.
All right, Brady, who are you tipping your hat to? Who's your Valentine?
All right, my Valentine this week. I'm tipping my heart out to 21-year-old 10th overall pick by the Edmonton Oilers, Evan Bouchard, who's made the club now. He's proven that he can put up points in the bigs. He is now on the left side, which hopefully he can stay on a line with the likes of Ethan Bear coming back. But my hat and heart are out to Evan Bouchard, who's looking like he's going to be the next Paul Coffey for the Edmonton Oilers.
Wow, that is some very bold predictions, but Braydon is always up for a bold prediction.
Yeah, Braydon, I really hate when you do that.
He's sort of like
I'm not going to stop.
A hex on whoever he does it to.
I'm a fan, you guys. I'm an Oilers fan. You have to sell it all. You gotta go all in or nothing at all. And I'd rather not go nothing at all because I'm sitting at home just waiting for the next Oilers game every day.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. But I was excited about Evan Bouchard. But now after that bold prediction, he's going to get traded to Pittsburgh Penguins.
Whoa. Yeah.
Get him off your fantasy teams right now, everybody. Braydon's just put the jinx on him. All right, here's my my Valentine and my tip of my cap. The Vancouver Canucks are known as a goalie graveyard. They're not known for gravy. They are a goalie graveyard. That's what I meant to say. And we have seen many a good goalie come into Vancouver and be pummeled by the fans and then turn tail and run away. Braden Holtby, he's 15 games into being a Canuck. He's frustrated. He's upset. He's not having a great time on a team that's struggling. And he didn't, he didn't hold back. He spoke rather candidly, a little surprisingly candidly, in a press conference. He said, and I quote, "I don't think this is the time to sugarcoat anything. I think it's time to look at ourselves in the mirror and really find how we can be better and how we can take responsibility for the past and learn from that and move forward." Now, what I want to tip my hat to is not the fact that he very eloquently articulated exactly how the Canucks are playing, but that he actually showed some emotion. And I think that it says a lot that we have already mentioned today, how conservative hockey is and how conservative players are, that the management is just the sports culture in general is often very buttoned down and protective. But I think that there's something to be acknowledged. And like, I do sincerely tip my hat to Braydon Holtby. He also posted a rather long sort of defense after people were like, holy, you just like railed on his team, dumped on his team. He posted a long Instagram post sort of defending his words. And he said, I don't know why it's pardon me, I quote, I don't know why it's some kind of taboo to speak your mind or stand up for what you believe in. Obviously there is always divides in sports, to social issues. We want to be educated. You want to make sure that you know what you're talking about. Sometimes you just have to speak from the heart. And that's all I was doing. Things that happen on the ice, stay on the ice. Things that happen in the dressing room, stay in the dressing room. But my emotions are something I'm happy to share. And I think that was like, wouldn't we all like a little more honesty from our hockey players and we as fans know when it's not going well. I would just like once in a while for them to acknowledge, yeah, we played like shit tonight. Tip my cap to Braydon Holtby.
He didn't even say anything that was egregious. That egregious, you know. That baffles me. But that's a great choice, Jordan.
I like that he at least came back and defended it, because so many guys have been like, yeah, you know, I shouldn't have said that. Or, I mean, all the time we have guys making fun or getting angry at, John Tortorella for showing emotion. But like, God help us if we couldn't see a little bit more from some other people. I think fans would be so much more forgiving of players when they do screw up and stuff if we felt like they were more human. They're not robots. This isn't a video game simulation. These are real human beings who have emotion and frustration and anger, and sometimes they just don't play well for a lot of different reasons. And, you know, I appreciate when he's frustrated. He shared that. So, yeah, no, I tip my hat to Braydon Holtby, and I tip my hat to both of you. Thank you for joining me tonight on Valentine's Day, special Sunday night edition. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jordan.
I was hoping for more of an ending there, but jump back. All right, cool, great. So have a great family day tomorrow. Stay safe out there, everybody. Wear a mask and socially distance and all of that. And we will talk to you again in about a week. This is Hatrick. Hatrick is a member of the Ordinary Podcasting Network. It's produced every week by Jordan Dowler Coltman and Braydon Dowler Coltman. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. I got all flustered when Elliott said that I hexed them. I don't want to mess with people's juju.